Even the mysterious magic of the Chosen King could not hold Armenia together. Not only were armies now openly attacking Armenian cities, but the king's cloned doubles were betraying their master. Even Arsiuka, the Chosen King's protege, fled into the mountains to scheme. At the same time, the treasuries were running dry, food was becoming a luxury, and the borders were beginning to crumble. There is simply no other explanation. Dark mages! They're still out there, still clattering away with their messy little bone talismans, playing with powers they don't understand. They will destroy this world with their meddling. My beautiful boy, my doubles, they couldn't possibly just leave me. I needed them. Pandora needed them. Now I shall have to gather more spines to create more servants. Spines that could have been used to summon Pandora. How long will this delay our salvation? The mortals don't deserve a patron like me. They really don't. I could seal myself in the temple and wait until I am the last one alive. Only because I am a good person, a proud ruler of Armenia, do I bother with this charade of charity. Since I need the spines anyway, I shall go to the surface one last time and see if my bumbling, squabbling people can earn my favor when it counts the most. And if they don't, then we shall not have to go far to find the seeds and feed for my next batch of true Armenians. Hello, welcome back to Wings of Eden. After a short and very unsuccessful battle, defending against the second attack by the Pergamon army over here on our western border, we have finally lost some territory to an enemy faction. Pergamon now occupies part of Armenia itself. With this loss of territory, our economy becomes unbalanced. We're now losing money again, and we're running out of food. That means we're taking double attrition. All of our units will now start to just die off the longer we wait. There's only one thing we can really do about this, at least when it comes to the food, and that is to try and use edicts to get some bonus food. You can get 15 extra food per turn or something using an edict, and I happen to not be doing it on this one city down here, so we can do that to stabilize us during winter. We'll be fine during summer because you get more food anyway. There are plenty of enemy armies right here, so if we lose this territory, then we'll truly be in trouble, but we'll just have to see if that happens. Moving on to the next turn, the armies around that territory mostly have become less aggressive. It looked like they were trying to go around us or something, but now they're just setting up outside. Really, they don't need to besiege us because we're taking attrition even without them there. We'll just die if they wait, so maybe that's their plan. There are hostile armies all over the place, just what I wanted much earlier in the campaign, and now we can't really do anything about them. But the enemy aren't doing all that much back to us either. We do have this one siege in the corner where the enemy are just sieging it out and not really attacking. And as I said down here, they're just waiting. We're in the next turn now and they still haven't really done very much. Because we're just going to die, you can see our men are gradually disappearing. We can't really wait for the AI to try and make something cool happen anymore. It's time to go out for a last hurrah, basically. We're going to send our troops out to see what sorts of final battles we can muster up in this campaign. So no unit card marches out to the west from the capital to take down the Atropatkan forces, who have two small armies from two different factions around there. And Haldita with the main force will go towards where this huge Arabian invasion is currently building up. At the start of the next turn, we get news that there are some rebellions, apparently. There's one in Armenia and one in Caucasia, it says. However, after hacking through all the attrition messages, there's no evidence of these rebellions actually happening. I think it might just be bad propaganda or something. Maybe the game has just truly given up trying to process the rules, etc., and we're just immune to rebellions now. Not quite sure. Maybe everyone's dead. That's another plausible explanation. Anyway, no unit card is going to go after this little Atropatkan force that's sneaking around in the forest. Can't reach it right now, but we will continue to pursue them for a little battle right there. And for a not little battle, we're going to send Haldita with our main force to link up with the garrison in the town for a #massive battle with the miscellaneous Saba armies that are standing right here. They've got something like 3 stacks, but not at full strength when you add all their stuff up, and we've got something like 2 stacks, and it's a roughly balanced engagement as a result. So let's go down to the field and try to clear out this massive invading force and finally get a victory for Armenia, one that is sorely needed right now, I think. The enemy's reinforcements in this fight were slightly interesting because one of their armies comes into our deployment zone as the battle begins. So that's going to define pretty much our strategy. We need to immediately turn our armies to face this army that's right next to us. However, by doing that, I am putting the back of the main portion of our line facing 2 enemy armies coming from the other directions, and the enemy's cavalry from those armies arrive pretty soon. They go for the end of the line, attacking the levied spears here, and the spears are just annihilated really. Their bonus against cavalry doesn't mean anything in the face of being attacked from all sides and their low morale, so that unit is just taken out immediately. We probably would have taken more rear attacks, but I'm moving all of my cav to try and screen the back of the main infantry line. We're going to use cataphracts, horse archers and skirmishers to delay the enemy behind us while the rest of our force presses forwards to defeat the army that started nearest to us. Our horse archers are going to do a good job because they can skirmish and aggro the enemy off in all sorts of directions. Using our cataphracts to stem the rear attack on our force was pretty effective. Everything's getting stuck in trying to fight the cataphracts and are just bunching up around them, not doing that much damage. We've got some Massilian picked men, elite spears, who will now hold that flank for us, while everything else starts charging this nearby army. And handily enough, the army in our deployment zone didn't have many melee troops, it was mostly skirmishing troops. That means the battle will be a running fight. We can just advance towards them, thus putting some distance between us and everything else the enemy has. So we see here a while later, I'm just running away across the map. I'm trying to escape from the enemy's approaching army. A few units are already in combat, so have to be left behind, like those cataphracts, but that's pretty useful. It serves as a rearguard action. They'll delay the enemy, while everything else forms up properly now, ready to face the enemy's main force, and a few dedicated units will stay behind our army, trying to finish off the non-negligible remnants of that army we were fighting initially. And in fact, they did cause us some trouble, like these camels came over and routed some of my archers while they were trying to form up, so I needed to pay them more attention really. So now we'll fight as much as we can behind us before the fight in front of us gets started, and hopefully we won't be too disadvantaged by being surrounded right now. Great lady, hear my prayer. It was 20 years ago when I first came to know you. Like everyone, I had heard of your name, yet when I saw your chosen king's fortunes, I realized that you are the only god who takes more than a passing interest in the fate of us mortals. It was on that day I pledged to serve you, and since then I have crossed the world to be closer to your holy Eden. Yet the jealous gods have pooled their power against you, and their strength nearly matches yours. Thus we face not the promised paradise here, but only chaos. I know that is not your will, and that is why I am here on this battlefield, calling upon your energy to destroy the foes of the future. Be my shield beyond sight, great lady. Be the tempest, the unknowable origin, the undeniable end. Bring me beings of backbones, and I shall bring their tribute to your temple, and see your grace triumphant. Hear the call of a mere mortal whose ambition is yours, and in our unity, let the blind masses be humbled in death. Things, broadly speaking, worked out, and we ended up with a perfectly good formation and plenty of units with which to face the enemy's main group. On our left we sent out cavalry and skirmishers, and they did pretty well. We drove away many of the enemy's skirmishers, and my Javs are using the last of their ammo to soften up the enemy engaged in melee against our front line, and many of those units are now on the verge of going, so are ours right now, but things are okay, broadly speaking. At the back, the fight was taking longer than expected. Need to do a bit more micro here, these guys aren't paying attention, but very nicely these camels will come over to fight against our spearmen and hopefully get themselves killed. Quite a few units got distracted by some cataphracts I had sent over to these woods, so there's a little battle going on over there that we'll need to send more men to win, but that's good because it's taking the pressure off everything else. And the enemy general came over here to investigate and instantly got surrounded. I sent my royal shield bearers from the front line to fight him from the back. He's also fighting our elite swords from the front, so he's in trouble. I noticed that my archer line in this battle pretty much didn't do anything. This is one of Attila's great glitches, where archers can't fire at things if the enemy are too close, because on fire at will mode they only shoot at things that are close to them, but if they don't have line of sight on something that's close to them, they just don't do anything at all. They don't retarget like I think they did in the earlier games. So we are really not using a lot of our strength here. Loads of camels and cav showed up to attack our left flank. I think the cav that I sent out, some of the cataphracts, finally got defeated, and the enemy's final army is now bearing down upon us. We've got a few spear units here, but they are just not lasting. There's too much enemy stuff, and 2 half-dead units of levy spears, or 3 half-dead units of levy spears actually, are not going to be enough to stop this. The units that engage just die instantly, and the enemy break through. But you can see I've lined up those javelineers just behind that front line, and because they've got some stamina, they can hold on for a long time against the enemy. Therefore, it's not going to be a total disaster. They won't be going behind our main position or anything like that. We've also finally cleared up everything at the back now, so these units will come back to join the real fight, with our cataphracts going around the right to deal with the enemy's skirmishers, and our 2 best heavy infantry units, the ones who were fighting the enemy general, come around as well to get stuck into this melee, making a nice flank attack. I also started to micro the archers. This is what you have to do to make archers useful in this sort of formation. You have to pick targets for them that they can shoot. The issue is that you hit one of Attila's second great problems, and that is there's no guard mode, meaning if the enemy rout, your archers will run forwards into the melee trying to chase them and get themselves killed, so you do have to just micro it quite a lot. But by this point in the fight, microing is a valid option. There's not that much going on. Our cataphracts are, as usual, having some difficulties taking down the enemy slingers. In fact, those slingers are beating my general over there, so we'll have to send some men to support. But broadly speaking, we have this battle in the bag. These surrounded guys fighting on the front line will soon be taken out, especially as we start to commit more and more stuff to that melee. Off they go, and with them being defeated, all the skirmishers and Misk that was far away on the map routed as well, and the battle came to an end in a close victory. We have taken the enemy down, but we certainly lost a fair few units along the way. Over 2,000 men of our roughly 5,000 died, and probably a bit more than that actually, because a couple of our units disbanded due to being killed, and I'm not sure those numbers are counted in your losses, so we've effectively lost more. But the enemy have lost quite a lot of stuff as well. That's going to blunt their invasion for sure. Plus, since we're losing units, our economy is going to be a bit less bad, although as you can see at the top, we didn't lose enough stuff to recover the situation completely, so that's a shame. I decided to go on and attack one of these enemy armies again to get some more kills, and we can even draw in these random Nabatean men who are hanging around. A super one-sided auto-resolve. Let's place our bets and see how much of our army the game will decide to delete for us this time. Interestingly, it was only the 1 unit and no cavalry, so that was nice. No levies left in that army then, and yes, the financial situation hasn't really improved after all those losses, so we're going to still take attrition and broadly go downhill. Nothing we can do really except disband the army, but since it's being gradually disbanded by the attrition anyway, it's really all the same thing at this point as late stage in the game. Now the Atrapakan army that I was pursuing turns around to fight with no unit card, so here's a nice little battle. We've got 4 units of heavy infantry and 3 units of archers against this mixed army of various things that are all half dead for some reason. A nice little battle, a slight enemy advantage, but plenty to work with. I once had a name in another life. Imagine the surprise on the face of my wife when I wake one day to find that I am known to none but the lady of the sky. Now I walk in the shadows of the eagle's wing, heard only by those to whom I sing. Brave acts of courage spring from we who fight with the backing of a melody.
Pandora took his name, never to return to him again. Pandora needs his pals. At the end of time she'll need ours. Pandora needs more spines. I'll give her theirs, then I'll give her mine. The course of history shall bend to the will of the great lady.
I deployed nice and simply with a line of archers and a line of infantry. The enemy sent some skirmishers, some horse skirmishers, to attack our right flank. Just about got the archers out of the way in time. But actually, after they crashed into our Romanized infantry, they did a lot more damage than I expected. We took loads of casualties on the charge, even against light cav, and now in the ensuing fight, things don't go that well either. Meanwhile, the rest of the fight's going well because our men are throwing javelins at the advancing enemy, and we managed to rout some camels and some of their infantry just with the javelins, so that saves us some time. And the enemy's formation is quite packed up, so we're not going to use most of our line, and outflanking will be on the cards. Meanwhile, our general and the cataphracts go around to the left and clear out some enemy infantry, and then these camels as well. They should have no trouble with that. And yes, looking back to the right, we have lost our sword unit to those skirmish cav. That was quite surprising, but at least there's no other pressure really on this area, so we can just put another unit into that fight, and the rest of the fight will take place entirely using our one unit in the middle, so that's all good. After the last battle, I was conscious of the need to micro the archers, so I'm now targeting the units that are in their line of sight. And once you actually do this, just a couple of volleys from multiple units of archers will clear out enemy units one by one. If you really micro it, we could have been performing a lot better in pretty much all of the battles we've fought in this fashion. Anyway, my cav chase off the enemy skirmishers, and then they come back to start sealing the deal with these infantry. We actually end up with local numerical advantage in terms of infantry, so we can start surrounding and pounding. Once we get the cataphracts in there for some charge bonus, it brings the enemy down to routing territory. Those units rout, and with their heavy infantry now just being slaughtered since they're totally surrounded, the battle will be ours. There were still lots of units wandering around, but as we formed up and went after them, they just gave up on the fight. So there go the last infantry. Their skirmishers have already run away, but the fight continued on still because their general was sitting in the corner just hiding for some reason. So I had to move the army over to face him. He has heavy cav, so when he charges the front of our Romanized infantry, that's really big trouble, and we lose pretty much another unit. Although because they routed, they didn't all die. We'll keep them after the fight. They're now just very weak. The general himself routs very easily because of army losses, and then that does bring an end to the battle. No units lost on our side, and that's all that really matters, of course. And the enemy army's pretty beaten up now. They're probably not going to be an issue in the future. If we face them again, we may be able to finish them off. But first, we're going to face again the army of Saba. It's time for part 2 of Haldita's decisive battle with the invaders, because they managed to rustle up enough troops to have another 4 armies come at us. So, we're pretty much facing the same situation as last time again, only this time the enemy have more heavy infantry and less cavalry, I think, than in the last army. Another similarity with the previous battle is how the reinforcement directions are weird, and that's going to define what we have to do at the start. Once again, we face an army coming in pretty much into our deployment zone, and with the setup we have, it's particularly dangerous. We've only got a few units in our initial army. Most of our units are in the reinforcement group, and they're not going to arrive anytime soon. They're moving uphill to get to where we are, so we're going to have to try and hold our ground for a while. I've got 4 units of horse archers who are going to go on a mad rampage across the map. A big kiting distraction basically will draw as much of the enemy's army away from our position at the start to take the pressure off. And for the units that are attacking us, we'll just have to try and resist. We've got several units of elite foreign infantry like these Massalian picked men, so we can resist the enemy's attacks for a decent while. We don't quite have enough men, so we are going to have to commit the Chosen King himself into battle, which is never good since cataphracts aren't that good at static melees, but that's what we have to do to buy ourselves some time.
All that dust! The fighting must have started.
We can't stay to watch. We've got to be over this mountain by dark.
But he's out there.
The Mad King? He lives for now. We have to stick to the plan.
I think I can see him.
Lord Arsiuka, are you with us or not?
Of course I'm with you.
Then come with us and save Armenia. Your master would let you die on that battlefield if it furthered his cause. Remember that. No one is worth anything to him, even you. Pandora has his mind firmly enslaved, and if we don't act soon, he won't be the last.
I know. We must prevent the coming of Pandora. Or we must find the second box first.
Enough about this second box. There is no such thing. Stopping the king is the only way to placate the anger of the foreign armies. The only way to stop them doing to us what our master did to them.
You are right. I understand. Over the mountains we go, and then we prepare our forces. The Chosen King must be stopped. The Temple of Bones must be destroyed.
And when the price for failure is certain death, there's no point holding back. Come, my lord, let us set history right again. We had to stop our reinforcement army early and form up before we reached our original troops. Because the enemy were too close, we weren't going to make it. We got attacked by their camels on the right end of the line, and our spears lasted about 3 seconds in that combat. Not very good at all, since they're supposed to be the kind of unit that can stop camels, so gonna have to use swords there instead. Meanwhile, the original fight's going okay, mainly by virtue of the fact that everything's been distracted by a reinforcement army, so there's not that much stuff actually up there anymore. We surrounded the enemy's commander in this area, but some of the enemy's cav and camels then showed up to counter-surround us. I turned our Massalians around at the last second, but this wasn't enough, they were taken down. Luckily, those camels didn't stay to keep rear-attacking everything else, they're going to come back to the main fight. In said main fight, we're already being absolutely swarmed by camels and cav. On our right flank here, they're coming at us with loads of stuff, and really I just had javelins defending this flank after the loss of the nearby spear, so it wasn't very good. So I committed my cataphracts to hold this position, and they'll do okay. The enemy's lighter cav won't be able to get through them and will gradually push them away. No infantry fights really got started yet, because the enemy have loads of these heavy infantry who also have bows, and they're using them as range units, so they're all out there among the archers firing at us, meaning my line has to advance to go and try to find some targets before they're gradually whittled down. The cav that was taking out our Massalians, the camels I should say, came over to attack the left flank of our main army, but we turned 2 units of our trash spears and they were able this time to hold off. Meanwhile, this original fight's going to grind down to a win for us, just a few units fighting it out, and the Chosen King taking out the odd skirmishing unit on the edge of the battlefield. So back to this main fight, or the lack thereof. I've advanced up with our heavy spearmen, but because the enemy can just skirmish away, we can't really start a fight here, so I ended up just standing there and taking the arrows on the front of our shields, since it doesn't do that much damage. Meanwhile, my own archers are, in theory, shooting into the enemy's archer blob and taking them out. In practice, most of my men are doing absolutely nothing, as tends to be the case, but the idea's there at least. Our original units have finished their battle, so I'm ordering them to come and join the battle over here now. Gonna take them a while to show up, plus they'll be super tired, so that's not the most useful reinforcements, but better than nothing. Meanwhile, some of the enemy's melee infantry are starting to actually go into melee by the looks of things, and they've got plenty of opportunities because our line is just non-existent. We only had 3 or 4 melee units, and they're now really spread out, defending a wide front. Handily enough, things don't go that badly though. I used my heavy swords here to go around our spears and attack some of the enemy's Sheik infantry who just moved up and started shooting at us, so that's very nice. Another unit went into the front of our heavy spears, and then another unit kind of went into battle with our heavy spears. They came and stood right next to them. They started shooting at my archers, but they actually ended up getting drawn into the melee taking place on their flank. And now, because they're not paying attention, our own archer blob starts shooting into them, and we're very quickly going to take out that whole unit. It's a nice exposed position for us to attack, and that's going to help us out quite a lot. Meanwhile, my cataphracts on our right flank have now driven the enemy's skirmish cav and light cav in general all the way around to the back of the enemy army. There are still some of them alive, and we have to just keep ploughing into them because we can't leave even though we're really tired. Our reinforcements are about to show up, and we're generally surrounding the enemy army at this point. Here I'm throwing some jabs into the flank of the enemy's main blob on the left end of our quote-unquote line, but I've got 1 spear unit holding off 5 or so enemy units all at once. Now we can commit some reinforcements to help them. I also sent units down the hill to try and chase away the enemy's archers. They ended up in melee and being defeated, so that didn't go all that well, but I guess it kept them locked down for a little bit, and that helps me catch up with our cataphracts. We've got the Chosen King who came around from our left, and those cataphracts who came around from our right, now linking up together to double team, or triple team as it is, these archer units. And while, as we've seen before, cataphracts aren't very good against static skirmishing units, with enough of them and with a bit of a charge bonus thrown in, you can do some damage. Our surviving horse archers are doing the same thing, picking off isolated enemy skirmish units by just charging at them. The enemy's heavy infantry are starting to move around and not really commit to any particular fight here. We've got 3 different fights going on in different areas, where none of them are going particularly badly. Some of them will probably result in our loss eventually, but we're going to have plenty of time since our units are heavy in many cases. So our cataphracts do a pretty good job of working together with our horse archers to clear out the enemy's skirmish infantry, and then I started using my bow infantry more proactively to clear up things further up the hill. The bows aren't necessarily good in melee, however we can take advantage of the fact that the enemy kept moving their units around to just absolutely slaughter them. I still don't even know how this works. I think any unit that has a move order is considered to have 0 melee defense and 0 armor, so any attack will kill them in 1 hit. And so our archers just absolutely slaughter the heavy infantry that our own heavy infantry had really no luck taking down, and that's going to start turning this battle. We've got the center under our control, we can move to surround the other positions. Meanwhile, some heavy infantry went down the hill to go and take on our general and remaining cataphracts, but a quick point-blank range charge dealt with them. Then we set up the archers to shoot into the flank of the enemy's main remaining blob where their general is as well, and that's going to be the nail in the coffin for this fight. They're going to be morale debuff for being under fire, their allies in the other blob have been taken down, and soon they will surrender as well. We slaughter them because we had them surrounded, and that's going to be the end of that. A close victory, where, like the previous battle, we did take pretty substantial losses to achieve it. We lost something like half of our men and several full units. This means the Armenian army is really now in a bad state. We have very few units overall left to defend our kingdom. So while we have taken out this invading force by the looks of things, if anyone else attacks we'll be in trouble, and let's see if they do next time. Thanks for watching, and special thanks to all of the Officially Devin patrons. We're going to be running this series down to some kind of conclusion, seeing if the AI can actually finish me off. It depends how long that takes, but there'll probably be at least 1 or 2 more episodes of Wings of Eden.